tonight, I really do get to do something that I am genuinely excited to do. Introduce someone that I have called a good friend for over 20 years. A friend who has been part of this Genesis family since day number one of Genesis even becoming a church. I've watched Dr. Rizkallah live his life over the last 20 years with an uncommon combination of brilliance and curiosity. And what has always impressed me most isn't the degrees and the awards that Dr. Rizkallah has, and trust me, he has quite a few. It's the questions that he refuses to stop asking. Dr. Rizkallah holds a doctoral degree in dental surgery. He has a bachelor's in biology, a bachelor's in business administration, and also holds a master's degree in materials science. Dr. Rizkallah was recently named the most influential person in dentistry, and he earned the American Dental Association's presidential citation for his work in healthcare advocacy. Dr. Rizkallah also serves alongside the Discovery Institute, the Center for Science and Culture, one of the leading research organizations in the world that is exploring the intersection of science and the case for intelligent design. But more than all of the accomplishments and the achievements over the years, what I admire most about Dr. Rizkallah is just his commitment to walk with God. He is a godly man. He is a godly husband who has been married to his high school sweetheart, Laura, for almost 28 years. He's a godly father to 4 amazing children, Alice, Luke, Nathan, and Anna Violet. And Dr. Rizkallah is a faithful steward of everything that God has entrusted to him. So tonight, you're going to hear from a man who didn't find God despite the science. He found God through it. Now, before we welcome my good friend, Dr. Rizkallah, to the stage, I wanted us to listen to something that Dr. Rizkallah wrote. It is a psalm expressing his heart for the very content that he is going to be presenting tonight. There will be no words on the screen, just a voice that we wanted you to listen to, Dr. Rizkallah's psalm that he recently penned. And as you'll hear, it is a very, very powerful psalm. So let's listen now.
From the creation of the universe, we can see God's invisible character through what he made. His attention to detail and beautiful design is seen in a fluttering butterfly's wings, spiraling flower petals, and colorful, tasty fruits, while his immense power is seen in the Big Bang universe of galaxies and solar systems and our sun and moon. How is it that plants can capture sunlight to feed energy to animals? How is it that animals eat plants to unleash that same stored sunlight energy? How is it that a cell has billions of DNA codes that give information for life to plants and animals? God. How is it that each species has DNA code for a male and a female mutually attracted, complementary and fit, producing a baby in their shared visible likeness, passing through a birthing canal to take its first breath, with mom ready to nurse? God. Indeed, I see that all of biology and chemistry screams God's character through what he has made. A detailed, creative, and organized character. And God is powerfully seen in physics and cosmology. Science says the Big Bang was the beginning of time and matter. God. Science knows something cannot come from nothing. So how? God. The temperature of the universe is negative 270 degrees Celsius, a deathly temperature. Yet Earth gleams beautiful blue with life and water in a Goldilocks temperature zone. never too hot, never too cold, with a perfectly sized big moon that does not just produce ocean tides, but actually gravitationally rotates Earth's inner iron core in a south to north molten current, producing an electromagnetic force field around Earth, which preserves our Earth's water from the sun's evaporative burning rays. Earth has a real force field, produced by the moon. I think about that. Incredible. I see you, God. And that force field protects our life-giving water cycle, which rains onto plants and animals, creating rivers and then oceans and then repeat to rewater the plants and animals again and again. Under a beautiful protected sky, which itself sets the blue by day and black by night as a foreground to our mesmerizing solar system and stars and galaxies of a universe that science says had a beginning. Amazing. Cosmology bows down, physics bows down, chemistry bows down, biology bows down, repeatedly reminding me and convincing me of Romans 1:20. From the creation of the universe, God's invisible character is clearly seen through what was made. Detailed, beautiful, powerful, majestic. So as an honest scientist, I have no choice. I see it everywhere. It does not require faith. I have actual knowledge of God. So I bow down.
A very powerful psalm written by our guest speaker tonight, Dr. Mouhab Rizkallah. Would you welcome him to the stage with me?
Thank you for that wonderful welcome, Michael, and thank you all for that wonderful welcome. It's interesting, I get to hear that psalm, and it gets to me. You got to listen a little bit to what's going on in my mind all day, every day. And I mean it. This is happening in my mind all day, every day. But those are just words. Today, what my plan is to show you actually proof of God. Might be hard to believe, but there is proof of God, and it changed my life. So here's the question. The most important question for me in my life was, is there a proof of God? Let's start answering it. In order to answer that question reasonably, rationally, you have to start defining things. Okay? Socrates said, shouldn't have any conversations until you've defined the terms. Let's start defining the terms of my question. God. Definition. Oxford Dictionary. Spiritual being that is believed to have created the universe. So this is the big G, God. This isn't like sun God, moon God. No. This is the big G God I'm talking about, okay? And he says, Oxford says, universe. What is universe? What does that mean? Well, Oxford gives us a dictionary definition of this. It's a noun. Everything that exists, including matter and energy, which is going to be the subject matter of 60% of this talk today, space and time. Okay, is there proof of God? We have to define proof. There are different forms of proof. We're going to go to Merriam-Webster's Dictionary definition 2, proof. Establishing the validity of a statement, especially by derivation from other statements in accordance with principles of reasoning. That's called deductive reasoning. Okay? So we know this, right? Logic proofs, it's called a syllogism. Premise 1, A equals B. Premise 2, B equals C. It becomes a logical necessity that A equals C. That's a logic proof. So is there proof of God? You bet there is. You've heard a little bit about me already, but I want to give you a little bit more information on me. So, as Michael indicated, I represent a lot of the content coming out of the Discovery Institute's Science of Center and Culture. I want to explain to you why it's called the Center for Science and Culture. Science informs culture. If you're being exposed to atheistic science, you will adopt an atheistic culture. If you are exposed to non-atheistic science, to God science, you will adopt a God-oriented culture. And that's, in fact, what happened to me. I didn't go into this God conversation looking for God. I actually went into this conversation just looking at the science, and I found God through the science. So I have a lot of degrees, right? It says there, biologist, material scientist, orthodontist, and dental-facial orthopedist. But what I really want you to know on a more personal level is this. I am a healthy skeptic. I think it's empowered me by being a healthy skeptic. And if you're a healthy skeptic sitting in this room, we're cut from the same cloth. Or even if you have a little bit of skepticism, that's okay. In fact, that's intelligent. If you don't have any skepticism, I don't relate to you. Okay, if you just believe things that people tell you to believe, I don't relate. I'm a skeptic. So I want to take you on a journey. This is my journey, the scientific journey of a healthy skeptic. I want to explain to you what my goals are tonight. My goals are not to persuade you. My goals are to share with you information and encourage you to use healthy skepticism to evaluate what I'm saying, to evaluate everything you're hearing, whether from me, from someone else. And I think if you do that, you're going to converge on what I converged on. I found God. As Michael indicated, there will be opportunities for questions. One rule: any counterpoints must be based on scientific knowledge. It's a pretty fair rule. Let's get into it. What would you say when asked, do you believe in God? So I focused on the word believe here because I think the term is tricky. I think a lot of people think that faith and belief are the same. They're not. They're very not the same. And what I did is I created an equation. I call it the Dr. Mouhab Rizkallah belief equation. It's not that fancy. It's actually quite intuitive and basic. But it breaks the concept of belief into its truest components. Every belief you or I hold has two possible parts. Either it's built in knowledge or it's built in faith. Knowledge is the things you see. Faith is the things not seen. So let's just test that a little bit. Okay, each one of you here is sitting in a chair. Okay, if I ask you, do you believe you're sitting in a chair? Pretty simple question, right? Everybody would say, yes, I believe I'm sitting in a chair. And I'd say, how do you know? You'd say, I see the chair. You don't even have to see it, right? You could touch it, you could feel it, you could detect it. What are you doing when you see it, touch it, feel it, detect it? You're using knowledge, you're gathering knowledge. You know that chair is there. Now, let me change the question. If I ask you, do you believe that you're sitting in a chair on faith? Look at me like I have 7 heads. What kind of question is this? This doesn't even make any sense. Why do I need faith? I can see it, right? And that actually makes the point that sometimes you're using faith, sometimes you're using knowledge. But here's the thing. I told you, I'm a healthy skeptic. This is where my mind is. I'm not the faith guy. I never have been. I'm like a doubting Thomas. That's who I am. If you're like that, it's okay. It's okay. If you don't have any of that, it doesn't even make sense to me, okay? Let's talk about what knowledge is. So knowledge, in the category of knowledge, those are scientific facts, historical facts, and inferences. Let's talk about the 2 fact sets. They're the only fact sets we have. When someone says it's a fact, what they mean is it's either a scientific fact or it's a historical fact. It's all that exists in facts, okay? Now, inferences are an interesting thing. If you have 2 facts, between them, you can do deductive reasoning, which is like an interpolation, and come to logical deductions, okay? If you have two sets of facts, but the information you're looking for is not inside them, then you're doing inductive, not deductive reasoning. And that's an extrapolation, okay? But these are ways that we can reason in science. The faith side is interesting. I do comparative religion analysis. I've been studying religions for many years. And what I found is that the cleanest definition, and every religion has a definition for what faith is. The cleanest definition I have found to be actually Hebrews 11:1, which is essentially hope in things not seen. That's what you're looking at on the screen there. In that compartment, it's hope in things not seen. So when I say to you, faith is not the same as belief, I'm not just saying it because it's intuitive. I'm saying it's even biblical. They're different, okay? So when you say I believe in God, it's different than saying I have faith in God. So in my journey, I was asked the question at a pretty young age, do you believe in God? I used to say, why would I? And many of you in this room may actually feel that way. It's very fair. It's very fair. But now I say, how could I not? What a change. Why the change? For me, I had the privilege of extensive formal education in material science, biology, genetics, comparative physiology, and all of that made it very clear to me. There is a God, and it doesn't require any faith. Today's talk, 60% of today's talk, is going to be on material science. I have a degree in material science, and it's the knowledge of material science specifically in the origin of matter and energy that will be proof of God. Proof. I didn't say evidence. I didn't say evidence. There's a difference. That first bullet point is going to be the proof, okay? The second point is going to be evidence, fine-tuning of that matter and energy. So I'm going to walk you through all of that. And then for about 40% of the talk, I'm going to be doing some other science tidbits that are just interesting, and I can't walk away from without showing you them. I want to do a little bit of a historical analysis for you, okay? This is a 1966 Time magazine cover asking the question, is God dead? I want you to notice the colors on this magazine. You've got black, you've got red, you've got white. Fast forward to today, we've got this book. Same colors, black, the red, the white. Asking, is atheism dead? And I will show you atheism's dead. And let me tell you what killed it. Science killed it. Many people in here think that science and belief in God are not compatible. They're not just compatible. Science screams God. Let me show you. This picture is the most epic collision of science and God. You know the guy in the foreground, right? It's Albert Einstein. The guy in the background is Edwin Hubble. You've heard of Edwin Hubble, right? He's the guy who that big satellite's named after, right? The Hubble telescope. And what's it say here? Einstein with Edwin Hubble in 1931. This all pretty much began in the early 30s, okay? At the Mount Wilson Observatory in California, looking through the lens of the 100-inch telescope through which Hubble discovered the expansion of the universe in 1929. Why did Einstein go to Hubble's telescope? Let me tell you why. Einstein had field equations where he determined in his field equations, he assumed that the universe was steady state, meaning it wasn't expanding and it wasn't contracting. Hubble knew this. But when Hubble looked through his telescope, he said the universe is expanding, calls up Einstein and says, you got to come over here because your equations are wrong. Now, Einstein's a pretty accomplished guy. He's looking at Hubble saying, who do you think you are telling me that my equations are wrong? Come on over, Einstein. So Einstein does look in this telescope. And what did he see? This is what he saw. He saw redshift. What does that mean? If you're looking at a white light that is not moving away from you or toward you, it's staying still, it will appear in a high-power telescope as white. But if you're looking in it and it's moving away, everything will be red. And if it's moving toward you, it'll be blue. When Einstein looked in this high-powered telescope of Hubble, he saw everything was redshifted, which meant the universe was expanding. To give you an image of what that means the universe, if it's the biggest disk on the screen behind me, let's say that's the universe today, the expanded disk, okay? And then the slice behind it, let's say that's yesterday, right? And before that, it's regressing back. Regressing back to what? Modern science is saying this regression back to a what? A point. A point that they named the Big Bang. It's a moment of explosive creation. That's what modern science is saying. Holy cow. When science figured this out, it was a big deal because everybody was saying, well, that is a God statement. And atheist scientists struggled with this. Einstein never declared outwardly a religion, but he did say some things. Here's a quote. "Certain it is that a conviction akin to religious feeling of the rationality or intelligibility of the world lies behind all scientific works of a higher order. This firm belief, a belief bound with deep feeling in a superior mind that reveals itself in the world of experience, represents my conception of God." Let's fast forward. Today, if you go to NASA's website, you will see these images. This is the CMB, cosmic microwave background radiation. And at the top picture is COBE. That's a satellite from 1992. The middle picture is WMAP. That's the Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy Probe. And the bottom one is a more recent one, more refined. It's called Planck. What's it doing? It's measuring the temperature of the universe and the light energy in the universe. And what they determined was that, in fact, there was a Big Bang. That's modern day science verifying things that we learned back in 1931, and it's still picking it up, and it's saying, yes, there was a Big Bang. In fact, if you type WMAP into your Google browser, you're going to find this image. What is this image? This is science.nasa.gov/mission/WMAP. This is the image of the Big Bang on the NASA website right now, saying there was a moment of the beginning of the universe. Wow. I don't want to be the one I don't want to be the only one telling you what's so special about this image. So what I did is I decided I want to show you the perspective of this guy. This is Dr. Gerald Schroeder, PhD. Got his PhD from Massachusetts Institute of Technology just down the road, nuclear physics and early planetary physics. He wrote a book that's worth reading. It's affected a lot of lives, The Science of God. Here's a short video of him explaining the significance of the Big Bang and how it's proof of God.
My name is Gerald Schroeder. I have a, thank God, a strong science background from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, bachelor's, master's, PhD, 7 years in the physics staff, seen a whole range of atomic bombs detonated, moved to Israel, met my wife, Barbara Sofer, a great writer, and then teach Torah and science. So luckily, I'm lucky that I have the two that come together. And one of the questions that I'm asked as a scientist is, how can a scientist really believe that there's something what we refer to usually as God? You know, is this metaphysical whatever acting in the world or producing the world? And the irony is, the question's really a non-starter. Science has, in fact, discovered God. And you can talk to the hardline atheists, and they will say, it looks like science has indeed discovered God. And how would that be? Well, if you take the trouble of going to the web and there type in WMAP, the initials for a satellite, it's a diagram that shows the development of the universe from the creation over time. It's a timeline. Every word on that diagram comes from the NASA site. It is the condensed knowledge of the scientific community of how the universe created and how it got to where we are today. Each of the lines, the vertical lines, is another billion years. Okay, you start from a burst of energy at the extreme left side of the diagram, and you end up at the far end with the oval. The oval is to indicate expansion in all directions. Of course, because it's a timeline, we can't show that on a single piece of paper. We see here, most amazingly, that on the extreme left edge, it shows a beginning to the universe. Now go back less than 50 years. If I were teaching that at Tech, a person could lose tenure saying that there was a creation of the universe. It sounds like it's Bible. Because less than 50 years ago, the overwhelming scientific opinion was the universe is eternal. There was never a beginning. The Bible is wrong from the very first sentence. And then we discovered, suddenly, Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, the Bell Labs in New Jersey, the northeast of the US, discovered the echo of the Big Bang, the energy left over, which George Gamow, 60 years ago, predicted that if there had been a universe created hot and small, it would have exploded, and the energy would get more and more dilute. And Penzias and Wilson, these Arno Penzias and Robert Wilson, discover this energy that had been predicted overnight. The Bible got it right. There was a beginning to the universe. Now, the black in the diagram is nothing. It's not a vacuum. Vacuums are within that diagram, within that cone of expansion. Vacuums are empty space, and space is something. The black of the paper around the diagram is nothing. It doesn't fit in our human brain, because humans think in a box made of time, space, and matter/energy. No human, as clever as they might be, as expansive as they might be, thinks out of that box. So when we say outside that diagram is nothing, we can use the words, but we can't conceive of nothing. It doesn't fit in the human brain. My name is Gerald Schroeder. I have a, thank God, a strong science.
Let's pick up on some of the things he said. He said, science has in fact discovered God. Okay, he could say that. But then he said something even more interesting. He said, you can ask the hardline atheist scientists, and they would say, science has discovered God. Now, I'm a skeptic, right? You're a skeptic, probably, maybe. Do you think that's possible, that a hardline atheist scientist would say, yes, in fact, it does appear that science has discovered God? Hard to believe, right? Believe it. I'm going to show you. Believe it. He also said that the universe, this all happened in the middle of what? Nothing, right? And he said, nothing does not exist in the universe. What's he saying? Go to Richard Feynman, go on YouTube, look up nothing doesn't exist. He's saying the same thing. That's a Nobel laureate in physics, PhD, okay? Nothing doesn't exist. Doesn't even sound right when you hear it in your own ears, right? But in fact, that's the scientific fact of nothing. So to really appreciate a creation event, okay, for us to really appreciate a creation event, you actually need to spend some time understanding what nothing is, because the creation event is something out of nothing. So let's talk about that for a moment. What is nothing? Used to be, at the time of Plato, we would say that nothing is what you find in an empty glass. That's not what it is at all. It's true, it's very hard to understand what nothing is so that you can really comprehend a creation event. But I'm going to try to help you understand it. And to do that, what I'm going to try to do is connect with 3 of your senses. So imagine for a moment that I'm standing here on stage, and 6 feet away from me is someone named Jenny, okay? And I say to Jenny, Jenny, imagine for a moment that you and I are the only thing that exists in the universe. There's nothing between us. There's nothing around us. It's just you and me. Jenny, do you see me? Jenny's a smarty. She says, no, I don't see you, because there is no light, right? Okay. I ask her another question. I say, Jenny, There's nothing between us. There's nothing around us. If I scream your name at the top of my lungs, Jenny, do you hear me? Jenny's a smarty. She'd say, no, I don't hear you, because sound transmits through particles, and you've defined that there's nothing between us. Okay? And then I ask her my favorite question. Okay? I ask her, Jenny, what's our temperature? In nothing. Jenny's a smarty. And Jenny's going to say, our temperature is absolute zero, which is minus 273 degrees Celsius. It's pretty cold. Here's the interesting thing about that temperature. Never in the history of the world has any scientist been able to get to that temperature. What I just said is pretty amazing. What I just said is we can't get to nothing. That's a mic drop. Boom. What I just say, we can't get to nothing, right? Now, what if someone says to you, you can make something from nothing? That's a very interesting statement, because you can make a quick retort to them and say, really? When was the first time you started with nothing? You know what their answer is? Never. Can't be done. We can't get to nothing. That's dramatic. So what I want to do now is I actually want to do a little demonstration for you. What I just said about those three senses of nothing, I actually want to demonstrate one of them to you, because they're not theory. They are real. What I have here is a high-quality vacuum chamber. And I also have inside of it, I have a radio. And I'm going to turn it on as high as it can go. I don't know what's going to play. I hope it's not too bad.
Guaranteed human.
You hear it, right? Now I'm going to turn on the vacuum. I'll turn the vacuum off and we're going to listen, but I want you to take kind of an ear picture for a second. Hear it? We're at minus 20 bar. I'm going to try to take this down to minus 28 bar. There's a mic right up against that. I'm at minus 26 bar. Give it a few more seconds here. I'm at minus 28. If you were to listen really, really carefully, you'd still hear it. Why? I can't make nothing in there. I can just get it really, really close. But I can't make it so that there's nothing in there. But even if I could get that totally silent, that box is never going to get to minus 273 degrees Celsius. Right? There's no instance of nothing that I can create. Now, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to, again, listen for a second. I'm going to open this, and when the sound of the opening hiss stops, you'll hear it again. Okay? So these things I'm talking about, scientists know this. So when I said to you, Jenny's not going to see me, why? It's complete blindness. You feel that? It's a blindness you've never seen before. It's complete blindness. Jenny's not going to hear me. I could shoot a gun off next to Jenny's head. She wouldn't hear it. It's total deafness. And its absolute zero heatlessness is nothing. And from nothing came something, came everything. With a bang. Wow, sounds really Genesis 1:1, doesn't it? Really. So you've got this origin of the universe. We defined it, time, space, matter, and energy, from one point in the middle of nothing. Now, why is this really significant, this nothing thing? Why is it so significant? Let me tell you, this is why. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. This is the law of conservation of matter and energy. This is the single most foundational law of science. The single most. Matter cannot be created. What that means is that matter from nothing is supernatural. Well, really, you're kind of overstating that word. Maybe it's not quite supernatural, it's just kind of a big deal, but not supernatural. Okay, no, it is. That's a scientific term. The law of conservation of matter and energy is a natural law of science. So am I saying there should be no matter and energy? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Scientists ask it this way: why is there something instead of nothing? This is in all the books. Why is there something instead of nothing? There should be nothing. No sound, no light, no heat, and yet there's something. It violates the natural law, but you don't have to take my word for it that it's supernatural. You can ask this guy. This is Alan Sandage, PhD astronomy and cosmology. This man was a devout atheist. He studied the Hubble expansion, and he refined it to its current point today, determined the expansion rate of the universe, called now the Hubble constant, after Edwin Hubble. What did he write? Here is evidence for what can only be described as a supernatural event. Right? He's studying this Big Bang phenomenon. That's what he's saying. Abandoned atheism, became a Christian. Leaves us with a fact of science. Matter can only exist by supernatural means. That is what that law of science is saying. Therefore, there must be a supernatural creator. And I'm going to build that into a logic proof. I'll show you premise 1, premise 2. This is the fact, fact 1, okay? But I also want to give you a tool, because what I just said, you can find and summarize everything I just said on that first bullet point, which was the conservation, the matter and energy point. That was the first point. You can go to proofofgod.org and play a video that takes 3 minutes. You can change kids' lives. You can change adults' lives. Just watch this video. Now, it's cartoony. I'll admit, it's cartoony. But the cartooniness, don't miss it for the real physics, for the real facts. If you could cue that up, please.
Did you know there's a natural law of science that points to a supernatural force? Yup, this natural law is known as the law of conservation of matter and energy. This natural law states that matter and energy cannot be created or destroyed. Let's just focus on that first part. What does it mean that matter and energy cannot be created? It means that something cannot come from nothing.
But Professor, if matter can't be created from nothing, then where did our universe of matter come from?
According to this natural law, nothing natural could do this. It's the law.
Wait, are you saying this natural law means there should be no matter?
But Professor, clearly we're here. So how did that happen?
Well, my friends, clearly something circumvented the natural law.
But what could circumvent a natural law of science?
By definition, it had to be supernatural. That's right. This natural law tells us that a supernatural event has occurred. At some point, matter was created. And when we follow the science, science points to an unnatural, supernatural starting cause.
Hold on. Of course someone's going to argue against this logic, right?
Go ahead and try.
Well, what if I say that law may be proven wrong one day?
Sure, maybe one day. But as of today, it is a law, and it's considered one of the most foundational laws of physics.
So that argument's just avoiding today's scientific reality.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And we've gotta follow today's real science.
I've heard people say that with quantum mechanics, virtual particles can pop out of nothing.
Not a good argument. They're just referring to a subatomic observation where oppositely charged particles appear and then disappear from an already existing quantum energy field. Quantum physicists know that we have never seen matter come from nothing.
Never ever?
Never ever.
So does science really point to a supernatural event producing the matter of the universe?
Yes, and there really is no serious scientific argument against this. Science really does point to a supernatural force.
So what do we call this force, Professor?
That is for each of you to decide. But whatever it is powerful and it is supernatural.
Minutes. That is proof of God. It's cartoony, but it's accessible. You can show that to a child. You can show that to an adult. It's serious information. So I already showed you Alan Sandage, former atheist, studies the expansion of the universe, abandons atheism. But I want to go back to the words of Dr. Gerald Schroeder. He said, you can ask the hardline atheist, the atheist today, who's saying, no, I know these things. I know all these facts. No, there is no God. And they will say, there doesn't appear to be pretty good evidence of God, okay? So what do these hardline atheist scientists say about the supernatural creator conclusion? Well, let me introduce you to one. PhD in physics, atheist, Dr. Lawrence Krauss, wrote a book. This book, A Universe from Nothing. The afterword of the book, if you can read it, was written by Richard Dawkins. Richard Dawkins wrote this book, The Blind Watchmaker, and many others. These guys are the number 1 and 2 atheists in the world today. What do they say? Since we're talking about the physics, we're going to focus on this book from Lawrence Krauss. Let's go to it. The title again, A Universe from Nothing. You would expect to open that book, and what's it going to say in that book? It's going to explain something, right? What's he going to explain? He's going to explain how you get what? A universe from nothing, right? You don't need to read the whole book to know this. You know what he's going to tell you, right? That's not what he tells you. Chapter 9. If you get there, if you make it to chapter 9, this is what it says. Nothing is something. Okay, wait. The book is A Universe from Nothing. Chapter 9 is Nothing is Something. Simple replacement. A universe from nothing. Nothing is something. A universe from something. You think I'm kidding? I'm telling you it's what he does. I'll read it to you. So here it is. Here it is. Empty space endowed with energy can effectively create everything we see. Empty space endowed with what? Energy. Well, let me introduce you to an equation, Einstein's equation. E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light, c squared. This is a conversion equation. Energy can turn into matter. Matter can turn into energy. They're convertible by E equals mc squared. He's saying, I'm going to make you a universe from nothing, but just give me some energy. That's really what he's saying. I'm not kidding. Let's keep reading here. He goes on, it would be disingenuous to suggest that empty space endowed with energy, which drives inflation, is really nothing. But what if you didn't get to chapter 9? That's shocking, right? That's shocking. That's using your degree and maybe some charm to sell your books. I love this book. Buy it. Buy it. It is worth owning and having in your library. Give him the money, because what he actually did is something that I figured out without him explaining it to me. I didn't need him to write this book. I knew this. You can't do it. You can't make something from nothing, and it points to a deity, and you'll see he says the same thing. Let's go to the next page here. Reading on that same page, nothing is something, he writes, of course, supernatural acts are what miracles are all about. Okay, next line. They are, after all, precisely those things that do what? Circumvent the laws of nature. What's he saying? By circumventing the law of conservation of matter and energy, creating something out of nothing, it is a supernatural act. It's a miracle. And if you think he didn't mean that, oh, let's keep going. Buy the book. This is a Q&A with the author. What do you really mean by nothing? It seems at least to violate the conservation of energy. Again, matter and energy are the same thing. So it seems to violate the conservation of matter and energy, and more importantly, common sense. He's saying this to you. Okay. But one of the great things about science that I want to convey is that common sense is not necessarily a good guide to understanding nature at the forefront. Okay. Our common sense should derive from the universe rather than vice versa. And the remarkable, non-miraculous miracle is that combining quantum mechanics with gravity allows stuff to arise from no stuff. Okay, maybe he's going to explain to me how quantum mechanics does this. Let's read on. I'm ready. Go. Tell me. Now that state of no stuff may not be nothing. Whoa. You see, he throws it out there, he reels it back. Quantum mechanics coming out of nothing. Oh, well, it's not really nothing. Okay. In a classic sense, but it is a remarkable transformation nonetheless. So the transformation he's talking about is E equals mc squared. That's all he's talking about. Did he make something out of nothing? No, I'm making it out of nothing. Well, it's not really nothing. What's he confessing? You can't violate the law of conservation of energy. That's what he's saying. I'm not done. He talks about the quantum mechanics. The quantum fluctuations imply something essential about the quantum world. Nothing, okay, always produces something, if only for an instant. Well, now he's talking. Let's hear it. But here's the rub. The conservation of energy tells us that quantum systems can only misbehave so long, meaning you can't keep it. You can't really make something out of nothing. Okay? You see what's happening here? This is just deceptive. But then he makes an amazing admission. This is worth buying the book. Okay. The apparent logical necessity of first cause, logical necessity of first cause is a real issue for any universe that has a beginning. Ours has a beginning. Therefore, on the basis of logic alone, one cannot rule out such a deistic view of nature. What did he just say? The man is saying, I'm an atheist. It is a logical necessity for there to be a deity. This is what the science is. When I said I'm here to tell you there is proof of God, I'm taking it from the mouth of the atheist. So when you're in this room or another room and you're wondering if you should be worshiping, yes. Let's keep reading here. But even in this case, it is vital to realize that this deity, God, bears no logical connection to the personal deities of the world's great religions, Christianity, Islam, Judaism. That's what he's saying, in spite of the fact that it is often used to justify them. So what's he saying? Yeah, there's God. This is what that doctor said to you. The hardline atheist is going to admit to you, yeah, it does appear we found God. And that's what he's doing. But he's saying, but you can't use science to adopt Judaism or Christianity or Islam. You can't do that. That's his point. What's his problem? His problem is not the idea of God. His problem is religion. that's his problem, okay? Let's keep reading here. A deist, meaning a God believer, who is compelled to search for some overarching intelligence to establish order in nature will not in general be driven to the personal God of the scriptures by the same logic. I totally agree with him. I totally agree. I did not find out who God was using science. It's not the same logic. Science brought me to God. History brought me to Christ. It's a different logic. A month from now, on June 26th, I'm going to be giving another lecture on the history of Christ and the evidence of Christ in the historical facts, which brought me to Christ, a skeptic. So I agree with him. Last line, let's read it again. A deist who is compelled to search for some overarching intelligence to establish order in nature will not in general be driven to the personal God of the scriptures by the same logic. Yes, it's different logic. If you're interested in that second logic, be here on the 26th. This is a picture worth taking. If you have your phones, take a picture of this. This is the logic proof. Premise 1, matter is only created by supernatural means. We've established that. We heard the word supernatural from Dr. Alan Sandage. We heard the word supernatural from this atheist skeptic, Lawrence Krauss. They're all using the same words. This is a scientific word. It's something above the natural. In this case, the supernatural was circumventing a natural law, the conservation of matter and energy. So that's fact 1. Matter can only be created by supernatural means. Premise 2, matter exists. Okay, let's put them together and make a logic proof. The necessary conclusion, I used necessary conclusion because that's the term that Dr. Krauss used. Okay, the necessary conclusion was matter was created by supernatural means. Now let me tell you, as a scientist, anybody who's ever done any research or any science knows that you cannot make any kind of a scientific statement unless you show a person how to disprove it. Let me tell you how to disprove this logic proof. All you have to do is disprove one of the premises. Let's try. How many people in here want to disprove that matter exists? No one's going to do that. That's a given. Matter exists. Okay. How many people want to disprove that matter is only created by supernatural means? Let me tell you how to do it. All you have to do is demote the law of conservation of matter and energy. That's all you have to do. If you accomplish that, the proof doesn't hold. To the extent that you can't accomplish that, and good luck. This proof holds. Matter was created by supernatural means. So again, this is the time, 7:30 p.m., June 26th, for Who is God? But I'm not done yet. I've got another 20 slides. Did science just prove God under the Oxford definition exists? Yes, let's compare. Modern science proves matter was created by supernatural means. We just extracted that from that logic proof I just showed you. 2 premises, that was the conclusion. Compare that to the word God, according to Oxford Dictionary. You take a picture of this. Spiritual being that is believed to have created the universe. We already saw that, right? So now let's just cross-reference terms. Matter, well, that's what we said the universe was made out of in the Oxford Dictionary definition, right? Created, those are equivalents, okay? Spiritual being, supernatural. You see? This is the proof of God. By definition, it is a proof of God. But is it really proof? Yes, even the most ardent atheists agree, right? What did he say? The apparent logical, what did he say? Necessity. He didn't say kinda. It's a necessity. So let's take a picture of this. Let's plug this back into the belief equation And now I want you to pick your belief. And you can ask your children who might be struggling with belief in God. Ask them, which one makes sense to them? In the first equation, it says atheism equals logical necessity for a deity under knowledge. That's our knowledge. That's the modern synthesis of our knowledge. There's a logical necessity for a deity even coming from the mouth of an ardent atheist physicist. And yet, he's an atheist. There's a logical need for God, but he's an atheist, which means that he's actually basing his denial of God on something else. He is actually applying faith. What's his faith? His faith is that one of those premises is going to be disproven. Probably not going to be the second one, because that's just matter exists. So he is expecting sometime the law of conservation of matter and energy will be disproven. What's it based on? He has no knowledge of this. All of our knowledge is excessively that's never going to be disproven. So what's he applying? He's applying faith. Now let's look at the second one. Theism, that's a God believer, okay? The logical necessity for a deity. The knowledge is the same. No faith required. I see it. Faith is the unseen. The unseen is maybe it'll be demoted one day. That's what he's relying on. I'm saying, I don't need any faith. Why? See, the more knowledge we have, the more we see, the more we don't see, the more we don't need to rely on faith because it's the not seen. So the more you see, the less you don't see. Does that make any sense? Sort of a double negative, but that's the point. So when people say that you're unreasonable because you apply faith and belief in God, oh no. No. You don't. You have knowledge now. Everyone in this room, share it. You have knowledge now. The people who are applying faith are the atheists. The proof is complete. I finished the proof, but now I'm going to give you more tidbits that are really cool. In addition to the scientific proof of a creator, the probabilistic science in cosmology, physics, chemistry, and biology points to an intelligent designer. Not just creator, an intelligent designer. That is a thinking mind God. Superintelligence. Let me give you some examples. This is Roger Penrose. He's a 2020 Nobel Prize winner in physics. And he created and calculated the Penrose number. What is the Penrose number? The Penrose number represents the odds of the initial entropy conditions at the Big Bang by random chance. So what you're seeing there is the Big Bang, something out of nothing. And he's saying the order that bang was in, whatever that bang was so ordered to get to the order we have today. It had to be so ordered that he came up with a number. What's that number? The number is 1 chance in 10 raised to the 10 raised to the 123. 1 chance. Now let me tell you what that number means. It's a really amazing number. Okay. So that's called an exponent tower. You write an exponent tower when you don't have room on the paper to write the number. Okay? So to calculate an exponent tower, you have to calculate first the two top numbers. So let's calculate them together. 10 raised to the 123. That's just the two top numbers. 10 raised to the 123. What does that mean? That's 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. You multiply it 123 times. Okay? What that number is called a quadragentillion. Quadragentillion. Okay? Now let me give you a reference point. Okay? 1 times 10 to the 6th is 1 with 6 zeros after it. That's a million. 1 times 10 to the 9th is a 1 with 9 zeros after it. That's a billion, right? 1 times 10 to the 123 has 123 zeros after it. That's a quadragentillion, but that's just your exponent. Now you have to do the next calculation. 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10, a quadragentillion times. Okay? This is coming from a Nobel Prize winner. And he's saying you got 1 chance in that. Now, I'm not sure how to help you feel that, but I did what we do today. I asked ChatGPT what it thinks. I said, what is the scale difference between 10 raised to the 123 compared to 10 raised to 10 raised to the 123? And here's what it said. The difference is astronomical. 10 to the 123 is unimaginably large, called a quadrigentillion. 10 raised to the 10 raised to the 123 is incomprehensibly larger. 10 to the 10 to the 123 makes a quadrigentillion look effectively like 0. Those are your chances. So why do I believe in God? Remember what I said? How could I not? Okay, this is the math. We went to a proof. I've now shown you one bit of math, but there's more. This is Sir Fred Hoyle, an astronomer, was an atheist. He abandoned atheism, and he said, a common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics as well as with chemistry and biology. He's saying all of it is fine-tuned. What's he saying? Physics, chemistry, and biology. Let's talk about that. Nothing can't become something. You can't do that. Why? Violates the law of conservation of matter and energy. So physics doesn't even lead to chemistry. You can't get there, okay? And chemistry can't lead to biology, okay? Inanimate, inorganic, dead, non-living chemistry cannot get to biology. Why? It violates the law of biogenesis. The law of biogenesis says life only comes from life. So even if I give you matter, okay, just give you the Big Bang. There you go. What are you going to do with it? You're going to do nothing with it. You're going to do nothing. You cannot get to life. Law of biogenesis. And in fact, let's read what Sir Frederick Hoyle did. He discovered stellar nucleosynthesis from hydrogen. That's what this guy did. Nucleosynthesis is creating from hydrogen your next atom, helium, and from helium your next atom, and so on, to carbon, which is the basis of life, and all of the other elements. And what he said was, without fine-tuning, specifically of two particular forces, the strong nuclear force and the electromagnetic force, which are the forces two of the four forces inside of an atom. He said there can be, without fine-tuning, without them being so precise forces, the strong force being strong enough, but not too strong, the electromagnetic force being strong enough, but not too strong, by a measurement of 2%. If they're off at all, there would be no periodic table. That's what he's saying. There would only be one element, would be hydrogen. Again, what is this guy's background? Discovered stellar, meaning star, nucleosynthesis, creating of atoms, other elements, from hydrogen. That's what his role was. That's what he did. And he'd say there'd be no periodic table. Without a periodic table, what does it mean? It means no stars, no heat, no water, no life. Let's go into some chemistry, going to biology, crossing that biogenesis law. The first book on the screen there is The Language of God, Dr. Francis Collins. Dr. Francis Collins was the director of the Human Genome Project. He coded the human genome. It took him a decade to code the human genome. And when he was done coding the human genome, he wrote this book about it. He was an atheist. He's looking at the coding in biology and saying, this is not random. This is language. And he wrote his book. On the front of the book, what do you see? The double helix, the language of God. In the middle is Stephen Meyer's book, Signature in the Cell. Same concept. Same concept. There's an author. That's what science is saying. The third one, Doug Axe. Doug Axe is a Caltech PhD in engineering, in biochemical engineering. Amazing reads, all of these. If you're going to read one, I would read Doug Axe. He's easy to read. These other ones are heavier reads. Now, atheist scientists know this. They know the fine-tuning parameters point to God. How do they deal with this? Let me tell you how they deal with this. The extreme improbable fine-tuned parameters, I've already mentioned 3 of them. I said the initial order of the universe, that was the Penrose number. I mentioned the nuclear strong force, the electromagnetic force, and there are dozens more, okay? What has it led them to do? It's led them to say, well, either there is a God, or maybe there's an infinite number of universes. I'm not kidding. That is what science has left us with as options. Why an infinite number of universes? Because if you have one chance in infinity, you're going to get one right. That's our universe. That's what they're saying. Where all of these laws and constants all just aligned and we're perfect. Now, do you believe that? You have to take the Penrose number, multiply it by all of the other ones. They get multiplied by each other. Now that's your chance, one in that number, okay? Now, I'm sorry, I'm a skeptic. And I'm too skeptical to accept the idea of a multiverse. You know why? There's no evidence of a multiverse. Zero. So these are your options. Pick one using knowledge. Either you have an intelligent designer of the universe or you have a multiverse. And here's the evidence you've got. The facts support an intelligent designer. There are no facts. There's no evidence. Zero. Zero for a multiverse. But that's actually what scientists are saying you have to deal with. This is the option of every person in this room. If you are a science-oriented person or not, you should know this is what science offers to you. We're winding down here. My scientific journey leads me to matter was created by a supernatural means. It proves, not just evidence for, it proves God exists. Cosmology, physics, chemistry, biology are all fine-tuned. We've seen the probabilities. It evidences a designer exists. Leading me and you to deal with the question, do you believe in God? How could I not? So let's just do some parting questions here. Is God dead? No. No, not at all. Instead, is atheism dead? Totally. What killed it? Science. I hope you enjoyed going through that journey with me. I'm looking forward to any questions you guys have. And I think I'm supposed to be putting this up on the screen for you guys to submit questions if you want to.
We've got about 2 minutes. We're going to reconfigure the stage very quickly. We've got a lot of great questions that have come in. Clearly, we're not going to be able to get to all of the questions that were asked tonight, but we're going to get through as many as we possibly can. And I guess maybe for sake of clarity, if you were wondering, Doctor Strange and Spider-Man do not prove the multiverse. So I will answer that question for you. All right. Simeon, thank you very much. All right, Dr. Rizkallah, have a seat. We've got some great questions for you. As I mentioned, we're not going to be able to cover every question that came in. We'll get to as many as we can in the next 20 minutes. But Dr. Rizkallah has told me that he is more than happy to hang out for as long as needs be, to talk as long as it would be helpful, to answer any questions that didn't get talked about here. So, not to pick on you first coming out shedding a tear. That seems to happen a lot when people walk on the Genesis stage. So this is a little bit more of a personal question. How does what you just presented, the scientific proof of God, how has it actually affected your life, your family, and just your worldview on a really personal level. It's easy to hear how you have presented and the education background and the training that you have, which is a lot, but on a super personal level, how has this impacted you?
So that's a very loaded question. Let me say that I think of my middle name as being purpose. People who've spent time with me know this. I live with purpose. And that wouldn't exist unless I actually felt that I was created with purpose. So, and I describe this to people because I meet with people and talk about this all the time. It's in my head all the time. Often I'm meeting with people over dinner or lunch, and I'll just pick up a fork. And I'll say, someone created this. Why? They say, well, it's meant to eat with it, right? So someone gave it purpose, right? So what is created that doesn't have purpose? Now, if you think you're not created, if you think you're random, then you're not a fork. Okay? I had this conversation with my two youngest kids about a month ago. And I asked my son, what gave that fork purpose? And his answer was, whoever designed it. I think when he said it and it came out of his mouth, he kind of absorbed it. Okay? So that means that my relationship with my Creator is a question. What's my purpose? That's amazing. So that's an impact. What I've just shared with you is its daily impact on my life. I have a limited amount of time on this earth, and I just don't think it's as simple as just enjoying myself. No, I'm created with purpose. Part of my purpose is to talk to you. Part of my purpose is to infuse that into my son so that he can talk to other people. That's where we're at.
Without purpose, it's hopelessness. Like if the worldview is this is random, then there's not much meaning in anything that we do. So I appreciate you making clear that if we have a creator and he's created us, discovering what he created us for is vital to our life. All right, let's jump into a harder one. Can the Big Bang timeline is believed to have occurred 13 billion years ago. Doesn't that disagree with the Genesis account, the Genesis 1:1 account? In the beginning, God created.
So you rounded down to 13 billion.
It's actually 13.2.
13.2 billion.
I don't have my glasses on.
13.2 billion.
It's true, 13.2.
So the question is, how does 13.2 billion years in the modern science math relate to the Genesis account, which would say, the Earth is perhaps 6,000 to 10,000 years old? There are three ways to answer that question. I may not get in all three, but let me just start with the most obvious one, okay? In verse 3 on the third day in the Genesis account, on the third day of the Genesis account, the story is that God created all of the plants. Okay? Did he create seeds? Were they seeds? When he created trees, the first tree, was it a seed or was it a tree to produce oxygen for the things that he was about to create, which were animals that need oxygen? Or were they seeds on day 3? Okay, well, he must have created trees because that's what he said, right? That's what this book is saying. So he created a mature plant system, okay? Well, let's go to day 6. Day 6, he created this guy named Adam, okay? Was Adam a fetus? Was he a newly fertilized egg? Was he a baby, child? No, he was a man, grown man. Okay, so now this story is the mature organism that is the human, the mature. So now you're talking about a universe, okay? And we're saying if a scientist were to walk up to Adam on day 6 and say, you are 25 years old, would the scientist be wrong? No. If the scientist walks up to the tree and says, you're a couple hundred years old, would the scientist be wrong? No. Having a scientist measure the apparent age of something is not what the Genesis story is telling you to do. The Genesis story is telling you that God has created a mature universe. That's the story. So when a scientist today measures a mature universe, why is that a problem? That actually makes sense. And if you know anything about ecosystems, right, ecosystems require tremendous balancing. Tremendous balancing. This is not just, you can't just put seeds in the ground and a baby on the ground and develop an ecosystem. No, the Genesis story is actually describing an ecosystem that is in balance already. That means it's got deteriorated minerals in the ground for the plants to use as fertilizer. There's fertilizer in the ground in that story. Okay, now it's not saying those words, but that's what's indicating, okay? So the simple answer to that is the Genesis account is saying there's a mature universe. So the idea that scientists are measuring this is very reasonable. I won't go to the third one because it gets real complicated. I could go to the third one, which is the I'm going to go to the second one, but I'm not going to go to the third one, which is the concept of general relativity and how to measure time. And that time is actually measured differently depending on where you're standing. Okay, I'm not going to do that one. It's actually fascinating. It is fascinating.
Thanks, that was very helpful.
But let me just go to the number 2 point. So let me go to the number 2 point. The number 2 point is Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Genesis 1:2 begins with the word now. Now, the earth was formless. So Genesis 1:1 does not have a timeline on it. Okay? Genesis 1:2 begins with the word now and ends that passage with day 1. That was the end of day 1. Now, I'm not trying to overinterpret things. I'm just trying to understand. Okay? So that's the second point, that how do you read Genesis? Whether you read Genesis as an old earth or a young earth creationist, it actually doesn't matter on the first point that I made. It is old. It's mature. It fits into both models. It's not a problem. It's not a problem for me. Again, I won't do the third one because it's a little mind-bending.
All right, I'm going to give you a softball here. This one's pretty easy. As a biologist, do you believe in evolution? Why or why not? And is evolution even worth debating? Why or why not?
That is a softball. Okay, so I originally said in the beginning of my talk, I said, Socrates says define terms, okay? What is meant by the word evolution? Now, if you ask an evolutionist what they mean by evolution, and but by evolutionist, what I'm saying is an atheistic evolutionist, okay? They're going to say change over time. That's how they're going to define it, okay? Well, I changed my clothes. So did I evolve? That's not what they mean, right? Babies grow into adults. Is that evolution? If it's change over time? Well, that's not what they mean. Okay. Humans have gotten taller. We know that. Why? Because that hunk of guy, he's more attractive, right? So we know this. Humans were smaller. Now they're taller. Okay. Is that evolution? You see, it gets real sketch. What is the word? Okay. So here's the thing. I believe we have gotten taller. I believe in the next 50 years, there'll be very few white people. We'll all be brown, okay? because we intermate, right? But here's where the controversy is. Let me just put my finger right on the controversy. This is the controversy. It's not the word evolution. And I dislike the fact that the terms are tricky and people don't understand them. The controversy is not change over time. It's one concept, speciation. Now, how many times have you ever heard that word enter your ears, speciation? No one talks about it. That's where the controversy is. Why are we not doing what Socrates said, which is define terms? Because if you could do that, you get very quickly to the answers, okay? Here's the interesting thing. We have never seen one species become another species. So I'm going to change the question, if you don't mind. It's not a question of do I believe in evolution? It's the question of do I believe in speciation? And I don't believe in anything that I can't see because I'm a skeptic. Okay? Now, I want to qualify this because many of you in here are like, what do you mean we haven't seen a new species? I watch the news in the morning. They're like, new species found. Okay? Here's the funny thing. Charles Darwin wrote a book on the origin of species. In the book, he says, I don't know what a species is. I'm not kidding. And he said we shouldn't probably use that word until we have a really good working definition of the word species. Surprise. Let me go further. If you go to Amazon right now and just type in the species problem, you're going to find many books. The species problem is a problem on the term species. What is it? There are 10 different definitions of species. Okay? Let me give you one. A species is two organisms that do not want to mate. Okay? Well, let's go back 100 years. You know, white people and black people had a certain aversion. Today, that's not the case. Back then, using the definition of behavioral species, that's the definition of behavioral species, you would say they were different species. But if you apply that today, they mate all the time. So are they the same species? Then they weren't, now they are. Did something change? No. Here's why. The most correct definition of the word species, which is not actually the one that we actually all focus and use when we use the word species, is biological species. So when someone says to you, we found a new species, ask them, do you mean biological species? What's a biological species? Biological species is identified by its DNA. Okay, and there's a speciation test that you can apply. Here's what it is. Sorry if I'm going a little long, okay?
Nope.
Here's what it is. If mom and dad mate and make a baby that can make a baby, they make a baby that can make a baby, mom and dad are the same species. So let's do that together, okay? Let's say mom is a tiger, okay? Dad is a lion. They mate, they can make a baby. It's called a liger. Okay? That liger is infertile. It can't make a baby. Meaning mom and dad are not the same biological species. I'm going to give you another one, okay? If you have a horse mate with a donkey, these are two separate species, okay? They mate, they make a what? A mule. Can that mule have a baby? It cannot. It is infertile, meaning parents, mom and dad, are not the same species. And in fact, we have never, ever seen a new biological species formed. So back to the new question, do I believe in speciation? Why would I? We've never seen it. Do I believe in evolution? I don't even like the question. It's too broad. I don't understand the question, okay? So how's that?
I'm still have time and how you're understanding time in the back of my head as well. This is not a question that came in. It's just a little bit more of what you just said, Dr. Rizkallah, of evolution obviously has caused, it's been a source of a lot of conversations. And I guess I would just ask if there are people who have, that's the only thing they've ever heard. That's the only thing that they've ever read. That's the only thing that has ever been presented to them. You've given some new categories of speciation and how to understand that, but I guess I would ask, leaving here in a little bit, if you have only learned or heard about evolution for 30, 40, 50 years, what you're presenting is a very different paradigm. And so I guess what would be the encouragement of not only for those who have thought about evolution, and that's what has been instructed to them, I guess what would be the encouragement for them of give us a takeaway thought on how to understand, how to even think about something that has been in my head and brain, in my head and heart for a long, long time. Because you know this, it's caused a lot of controversy, it's caused a lot of confusion, and it's kept a lot of people away from God.
So let me say that generally I don't enter into the controversial conversation of evolution because I think it's a unfruitful discussion. Okay. Not that it's not important, because I love the conversation. I could debate it all day, okay? And I'd win. Because all I would say is knowledge, knowledge, knowledge. Give me anything that opposes this. Do that, okay? And I've heard it all, okay? But I only have that conversation with my colleagues because it's not a God conversation, actually. The God conversation's over. I already proved it. See, a lot of people have the evolution conversation as a God confrontation. It's actually not a God confrontation. I've already done that. See, I confront at the physics level, so that even the ardent atheist physicist goes, "You're right. You saw that." Why would I talk about probabilistics and evolution and all this nonsense to talk about God? I don't need to. I already did that. So that when I go to the frontline conversation on evolution, it's not a God conversation. I've already done that. God exists. And it doesn't happen at the evolution creation intersect. So when I do talk about it, I'm either talking to a colleague and we're talking academically. It's an academic conversation. It's not a theistic or atheistic conversation. I love having that conversation with my colleagues. I would not have that with a non-colleague who doesn't know the math or the science or the probabilistics of evolution, because at the end of the day, and it may sound odd to you, but my message is not meant to alienate people. I don't want to alienate people because they disagree with me on the evolution conversation. I want to bring them in at the physics conversation. So what's fruitful about having a controversial conversation on the evolution front? I don't think there's a need to do that. And if you're dealing with, and to your point, if you're dealing with the evolution conversation, it's okay. You want to be a theistic evolutionist, meaning God created evolution? You got to know God did it. Why? Because the physics says so. So you cannot be an atheistic evolutionist. You can't. You have to be theistic. Okay, well, if you want to do a theistic evolution thing, more power to you. I don't agree with you, but it's academic. It's not a God question.
This isn't completely changing gears, but the evidence that you presented tonight, why do scientists, and the question states Lawrence and Krauss, gentlemen you talked about, if it's so compelling, why don't they believe in God? How can someone look at the exact same content and information that you've presented and come to the conclusion there's still no God?
So I think he answered it for us, actually. He basically said there is a logical necessity for God. You saw that, right? He said it's a logical necessity. He didn't say logical implication, right? And then he explained really what his point was. It's just not one of those religions. I'm good with those. I'm good with the God, but he names himself as an atheist, right? And then I plugged it into the belief equation. We did that together. So I've already answered this, but I'm going to just underscore some of it. When you plug it into the belief equation, he's saying, remember, under knowledge, there's a logical necessity for a deity. He said it. That's my knowledge. But I am going to keep kicking and screaming. It reminds me of a child, in a way. Okay, no disrespect to Dr. Krauss. Okay, but there is something about it that's kind of childish. Like if you give your child is sick. You say, I need you to take this cough syrup. You need it. And the child goes, I know I need it, but I don't want it. There's some of that going on there, right? Like, I agree. I know it is right. I know I need that cough syrup. It's a logical necessity. I still don't want it. Whoa. That's a personal thing. It's not a knowledge thing. So that's really what it comes down to. And on some levels, I do wonder if both Lawrence Krauss and Richard Dawkins, in their last moments, are going to go, I knew you were there.
I think it becomes not so much a head issue, but a heart issue, because if there is an acknowledgement that there is a God, then I'm now accountable. Yeah. And I think just in our human flesh, we don't want to be accountable. So they might know it and they can see it, but if they admit it, I am now accountable.
I think that's a better answer. You should have just asked yourself that question.
We got just a few more minutes, and again, Dr. Rizkallah is going to hang out for as long as would be helpful. Again, a lot of questions have come in. I'm just trying to pick the best ones I can. This is a good one. What are the simplest and least controversial points to bring up with those who are just still struggling with belief in God? They've heard everything that you've said, but what might just be the simplest, least controversial points to meet them in their struggle?
So we're talking about tools now. Okay, so I had given you a website, proofofgod.org. It is the simplest proof level. Share it. You can go in there and read it. The content in there, besides that video, the content in there covers a lot of what I've talked about today. Take that to your most skeptical friend. In that is quoted Dr. Krauss's comments in his book, Admissions. Okay? That would be my number one. The second one, which is just a concept, which I touched on, which is the law of biogenesis, which is life only comes from life. We've never seen life come from non-life. This concept it doesn't exist, and it's not even controversial, right? Neither of those is controversial. That's what I'd leave you with.
Okay. Two more questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Has something to do with quantum mechanics.
Okay.
You good with that?
I'll try.
Can
I
quantum
know a lot
mechanics,
about, I know
this
a lot
was
about quantum
addressed in the
mechanics.
video, but can quantum mechanics make something out of nothing? That was highlighted in one of the videos.
Right, sure, of course. It cannot.
Okay.
It cannot. And
Enough said, that's fine.
No, let me go a little bit further here. This is actually a smokescreen conversation. People will say this. They'll just kind of like say it and run. That's what happens. They just say, in quantum mechanics it can happen. You'll hear this, right? No, it can't. It can't happen. And in fact, I read from Dr. Krauss's book what he's saying. He says, quantum mechanics, but here's the rub. Remember he said, here's the rub. Not really. Okay, that's just what it is. The law of conservation of matter and energy works at the large scale and at the quantum scale. You cannot make something out of nothing. It is true in quantum mechanics, our observations are that in an existing energy field, we observe a behavior in that field where at the quantum level, we see these things that pop in and out of our visibility, okay? But that they pop in and out of our visibility, they're never creating anything. They're in an existing energy field. This is not meaningful. That's why that video says, quantum physicists know you cannot make something from nothing. And then the guy pops in, never ever. And then the professor pops in, never ever.
Are there other laws that serve as proof of God?
Yes. So I talked about the law of conservation of matter and energy. There's also another physics law called the law of conservation of charge. And then there's the law of biogenesis. And I could go on, but those are the most...
The law of charge says, but just in case others don't know what the law of charge says, maybe explain what the law of charge is.
Law of conservation of charge indicates that the matter in the universe and the antimatter in the universe. Let me back up. Antimatter is a negative form of matter, okay? So they're just inverse energies, okay? And the matter of the universe and the antimatter of the universe, if you summed it all up and looked at it at any time point, it'll be the same. It's a symmetry law, okay? The symmetry is a time symmetry. The charge at point A, time A, is going to be equivalent to the charge at point B, time B. That'll never change. That's a conservation law.
Okay. It's a little after 9 o'clock. Dr. Rizkallah, I would love to just give you this isn't a question that came in. It's just more of a parting. We're about to leave here in a few. We've been challenged. We've been encouraged in many, many ways. But for someone who is here tonight and they still have a ton of questions, not even just about just the science of all of this, but they're just wrestling with belief in God. You know, you made clear that your belief is rooted in knowledge, that science helped you come to the conclusion that God does exist. And in a month from now, June 26, we'll gather again because you made very clear that history, science gets you to God, but science doesn't get you to Jesus. History gets you there. So I guess what would be your final encouragement as we head out of here tonight?
So, be skeptical. My favorite people are skeptics. To be a good skeptic, you've got to actually search. Don't listen
Add to that, if you can, Dr. Rizkallah, because one question that was asked was, what's a healthy skeptic? Because that presupposes that there's an unhealthy skeptic.
Yes, yes. So let me just describe that. So an unhealthy skeptic is they see the knowledge, but they're not convinced. Okay? That would be Lawrence Krauss, right? So when facing knowledge, you have to make at some point a decision to say, my skepticism is satisfied. And for me to continue to be a skeptic is unhealthy. It's irrational, right? That's an unhealthy skeptic. A healthy skeptic says, I am going to apply Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, all of the reasoning skills that I have. I'm going to apply that to the knowledge, and I'm going to be convinced when it's convincing, right? So be a healthy skeptic about everything you listen to. Not just, you should test everything I said, okay? You should test everything everyone said. You should teach your kids to be good, healthy skeptics. I truly believe that the healthy skeptic is going to find God, okay? And the second thing I'd say, and I'll leave it at that, the second thing I'd say is, when you're talking to God, and you're in church, and you're feeling the amazing music, like, put them up, okay? Put them up. Because you need to know you are worshiping a powerful, majestic creator. It's not the time to be shy. It's the time to get on your knees and be like, I see you, God. I got it. That's what I'll leave you with.
lot of the heart behind this series, and we're going to be doing more events like this in 2026 and into 2027. One thing I would add to what Dr. Rizkallah said is have conversation in community. Too many people have conversation in isolation, meaning they're just sitting by themselves thinking about things. Have conversation in community. That's why we're doing this here. It's good to have people challenge you. It's good to have people encourage you. It's good to have people help you think about things that you're not currently thinking about. So this is why we're doing this in the context of community. So would you please thank Dr. Rizkallah for being with us tonight? As I mentioned, Dr. Rizkallah will be hanging out towards the front of the stage here. If you have any questions, remind you that June 26th, we're having the question is not want proof of God. I think there's ample evidence for the existence of God. But what we're going to have the next conversation that Dr. Rizkallah will give a great lecture on is who is God? Historical evidence for the deity of Christ. So I hope you can come back, and I hope that you have family and friends that you can invite to come back with you. If you have any questions, please stick around. If you have any questions even just about Genesis and how to get connected here, stop by our Connection Center on the way out. But again, Dr. Rizkallah, thank you.
God of creation, there at the start, before the beginning of time. With no point of reference, you spoke to the dark and fleshed out the wonder of life. And as you speak, 100 billion galaxies are born. In the vapor of your breath, the planets form. And if the stars were made to worship so light, I can see your heart in everything you made. Every burning star, a signal fire of grace. And if creation sings your praises, so will I. God of your promise, you don't speak in vain, no syllable empty or void. For once you have spoken, all nature and science follow the sound of your voice. And as you speak, 100 billion creatures catch your